My name is Yuntong She. I am an associate professor in civil engineering. I'm also the associate dean for undergraduate studies for this department. I'm actually very glad to be part of this event. Being here, I can't help but remembering the time when I chose the major to study in my undergrad. So at the time, I actually put 3 options on the list. I put my first option being economic management. My second option was information system. My third one was hydraulic engineering. You probably can tell that I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time. Which you're right, because the first 2 topics, they were really hot topics at the time, so I put them down. And the third topic was just because one of my close relatives was working in that field. And then after an entrance exam, I entered Tsinghua University. I studied hydraulic engineering. And I continued in the same department to do a master's degree. And then I came here in this department, studied water resources engineering as a PhD. After graduation, I worked in the pipeline industry for a few years, where I used a lot of the hydraulics I learned from the universities. And then I came back to this department to be a faculty member. I consider myself quite lucky that I found my interest in this area. I developed a career, even though at the time I chose it, I didn't really know much what it is about. So I think I could have used more information than just the pure luck. So that's why we have this kind of events, and we have invited many of our industry friends to be here, and many of them are U of A alumni. We also have our enthusiastic faculty member here. We have our current students. So we have Civil Club, we have CISCA, which is our Graduate Student Association. They are all here. So we are all here we are excited to talk to you, to chat with you, and tell you all about civil engineering. Okay, so why civil engineering at U of A? So civil engineering at U of A, we have 6 subdisciplines. I'm not going to talk in any detail for any of these because we have lots of experts in the room. So I'm just going to go over some pictures and quickly talk about them. So construction engineering and management, they manage resources, cost, schedule for projects from the project start to project completion. Structural engineering, they build amazing structures, buildings, bridges, and keeping them safe and durable. Geotech engineering, if I understand correctly, they deal with rocks and soils, and they build stable foundations and tunnels under our feet. Transportation engineering, they come up with some very smart ways to move people and move our goods. Environmental engineering, they deal with environmental concerns, environmental challenges. They are a secondary program under civil engineering, and they already had a first-year night of their own last week, so many of you may have attended that event, so you already know a lot about environmental engineering. And last but not least, the water resources engineering, that's my area. So we manage water, groundwater and surface water, and both quantity, too much to fill, and also water quality. We also have strong expertise in cold region hydrology and hydraulics. That is one of our strengths of the water resources engineering at U of A. Choosing civil engineering at the U of A means that you will have multiple options in your undergraduate degree. So there are actually very early in the term or in the program. Second year, third year, you'll be taking various courses from the various subdisciplines. So there are lots of opportunities to explore, to see what you really like to do before having to make a solid decision. In my opinion, what's really exciting about civil engineering is how dynamic this field is. I can say that no 2 projects are the same because we deal with changes, variabilities, both in time and in space. So there will always be something new. You will never be bored working in civil engineering. So our department has the undergraduate degree. We also offer course-based master degree, which is the MEng program. We offer research-based master degree as well as PhD degree. There are also plenty of extracurricular activities put together by the student groups as well as the department of the faculty members. We have lots of research opportunities for undergraduate students to participate in cutting-edge research projects. There are lots of opportunities to explore. Do you want to see what it's like working in the industry? Do you want to see what it's like to be working in academia? There are lots of opportunities to try to explore. So that is my overview for the department. And I also want to introduce a guest to you today. We have Dr. Stephens from the Department of Biomedical Engineering. So we have opportunities outside of civil department for our student as well.
Yes, people are like civil, biomedical, what could they have in common? But everything you build is used by us. So there's actually a lot of overlap, believe it or not. You build a water treatment plant. Well, who are you treating the water for? You build a bridge. Who's crossing the bridge? Well, hopefully, unless it's self-driving cars with no one in them, it's us. So there are reasons to think about now biomedical engineering, because frankly, it's humans that are interacting with everything you build. It's actually been around campus for a long time, but it was handled by medicine. And we've just in the last few years moved to be under engineering. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to the idea. There are people in the department who do research very much related to biomedical engineering, whether it's looking at water treatment or ventilation or so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce that concept to you. There are several applications across various engineering technologies. There's people in the department who do finite analysis on various structures in the body like bones and cartilage and so forth. So there's individual humans, but as I said, there's also lots of ways of looking at populations and how they move around the environment, how they interact with the environment, and hopefully you're building things safe enough for all of us to actually use. The other thing to note with biomedical, though, is there are some courses later in your degree that if you have electives you could possibly take. I actually teach the first two, the anatomy and physiology ones, plus a couple others. I don't know how many technical electives you have, how many open electives you have. I have to admit, I didn't get into looking into that. But if you do have elective and you're interested in looking at how humans interact with your environment, it's one to consider. The other thing to note, there are the UA Biomed groups that work at building various projects, and they actually take in undergrad students from various disciplines to work. The other thing is we actually don't have an undergrad here. So if you're interested, possibly you get in further into your career, or your schooling, you think you are interested in maybe grad work, you can look into investigating. We do have cross-appointed professors between civil, so forth, that would probably be looking for grad students.
Thank you, Dr. Stephens. Also, thank you, Dr. Shi. I know this is just a very quick introduction about our program, but now I just want to jump into why did they choose civil engineering?
So I chose civil engineering basically because I didn't like Eng Phys, but also because Eng 130 was my favorite course, just like a bunch of these folks here. As many people have already said, in our opinions, it keeps the most doors open for you. Civil engineering is a very people-orientated discipline. Whether you're a consultant who is, speaking to your owner, having meetings, design meetings, or if you are a contractor and you're on site with a bunch of trade workers, you're always communicating. Again, even if you're at a municipality and all that. To tell you a little bit about my co-ops, because that's probably the most exciting part of your program, in my opinion, at least. So I did my first co-op at the City of Edmonton. I was in their Bridge Technical Services Inspection team, and my duties range from basically creating their bridge maintenance prioritization system to filing inspection reports. There's always some mundane task in your co-op that you'll get to experience. It's a journey for everybody, but you do learn really through your co-ops what area of civil engineering you're interested in. Throughout your degree, you take such a broad range of courses, it's very difficult to discern, what is it that I like? And it's difficult as first years to figure that out. I thought I was going through to biomedical engineering all the way up to about a week before I submitted that form. And even when I entered civil engineering, I thought I was going to do structural engineering up until a couple years ago when I had my next co-op. But to show you a couple photos here, this one right here, that is low-level bridge. We were doing a drone inspection there. And so the drone would fly in between these beams right here, and then we'd be looking at the damage that's been done over time. Over here, this is where, and we were testing the girder. You know, a random senior engineer says, "Hey Ben, come hop over, and we'll come look at these girders together." So that was fun. That's on Glenora Road. Over here, you might recognize this. This is the LRT tunnels. This one's between University Station and Health Sciences. Part of that inspection duties is that we inspect the tunnel system of the LRT. And so I got to walk through those, which is very fun. Don't try that on your own. And then lastly, one big part about working at the city is that, you know, there's a lot of different co-op students that you work with, and it's a great way to meet people in civil engineering and outside of civil engineering. So after that, my last 2 co-ops have been with Urban Systems. They're a civil engineering consulting firm here in downtown Edmonton. My work there mostly composed of civil design and asset management work. Now, when I say civil design, most of that's municipal work, things like roads, water, sanitary, sewer, things like land development, building new neighborhoods and things like that, basically everything besides the homes. So besides that, a big part of that was construction inspection and contract administration. What are those buzzwords? Construction inspection is I'm the on-site representative of the owner to make sure that the contractor's constructing these projects to what we specified. My last bullet point there is a lot of being a consultant is a lot of client meetings, and you're very people-orientated, as I mentioned before, and a lot of lunches. I probably go for lunch about 2 times a week during my job. It's one of my best favorite parts of the job. Highly recommend. Show you some of these photos. So this is a water pump house that I was working on. It was a rehab. I was just covering inspection for a coworker for 2 days. By far the most exciting project I worked on, just because if a wall of this building were to collapse, all of the water for the entire First Nations community I was working with would have been disrupted, and we were doing a lot of sketchy work there. So that was a fun one. Over here, this is us installing a hydrant in a subdivision. These 2 are both wearing hard hats, which is great to see. And then lastly, over here, we have one guy not wearing a hard hat, which is wrong, but they're installing sanitary pipe for that new subdivision. When I say subdivision, I mean a new community development like you see in the southwest of Edmonton here. Up here, you might say, what does civil engineering have to do with a helicopter? Part of this was hydraulics, which may surprise you. Basically, this community was having a river that was flowing through them clogged by log jams, and they were wondering, why are these log jams forming? Are they the cause of the flooding that we're seeing in this community? And so we flew the drainage basin all throughout. It was like a nice 3-hour ride. Guy did tricks for us. Very fun time. One of the questions I was asked to answer was one of the best projects I worked on. And it might look like a home with some stakes, and that's what it is. One of the projects I got to work on during my first co-ops with the Urban Systems was this very small contract. You will take Civi 250 if you're in civil engineering, which is our surveying course. Surveying is where you go out and stake stakes and lay out future infrastructure to be installed. And this project, in this Indigenous community, this home was placed here with no earthworks done surrounding this home, so they were having a bunch of drainage issues. Basically, all around here, there was all this ground sloped towards the home, and their home was flooding basically monthly. And we were brought out there to stake out what we call a drainage swale around the home and going to the road. And now, while this is not by far the most glamorous project I worked on, it was a 1-day field engineering experiment, basically, where I got to survey these points, design this swale ditch, and at the end of the day, the homeowner came out crying to us about how appreciative they were. And seeing the cause and effect so immediate, and just taking 1 day out of my time to make the world of difference in someone else's life, it's by far the most rewarding project I worked on. And lastly, I just wanted to give a quick word about Civil Club. So Civil Club is the student discipline club for civil and environmental students. We host a bunch of different events, from technical events where we teach you about those different sub-disciplines that Dr. Shi mentioned, construction, water resources, and so on. Besides that, we also host things like industry mixer nights. We have a paint night. So if you have any questions about that or the student experience, I recommend you guys come talk to us in the corner. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I know that everybody has spoken about the variety, which is clearly the number one thing about civil. Once you graduate, you have a lot to choose from. Take a look at all these amazing, well-known future employers. A lot of opportunities will open up if you choose civil. Now you've learned everybody's names, you know where they're from. Don't be afraid to go up and ask questions if you have any. Please feel free to go up to any booth and ask questions if you have. And again, thank you very much for coming.